Congressman Byron Donalds is running for governor in Florida, and he joins us now. Congressman, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that every single one of those National Guard troops walking around the city of Washington, D.C., right this second or at 9 o'clock this morning, have actually saved the lives of American citizens in that city.
It's not an overstatement. We had a hearing in the Oversight Committee a couple of months ago, and the mayor of Washington, D.C. said on the record that since the National Guard was deployed by President Trump, crime has dropped 40% in the nation's capital. 40%. Washington, D.C. has not been a safe city for quite some time. When the president was running for office, he said that he was going to make the nation's capital safe again. He deployed the National Guard. Crime plummeted in Washington, D.C. It has been working. But in spite of that fact, you have Democrat officials who have been whining and crying on TV and in any microphone open saying that it was wrong to deploy the Guard. The president is well within his rights to deploy the National Guard because Washington, D.C. is a federal enclave. It is the purview of the federal government, not just a city, not just some state. So the Guard was deployed. Crime has come down drastically. They should be applauded for the work that they've been doing. And now we have two of our National Guardsmen in the hospital fighting for their lives. The Democrats need to do an about face on this. They need to acknowledge the fact that Donald Trump was right, but bigger than that the National Guard has been a help to securing the nation's capital for everybody.
And, you know, when we have these big debates about these literally sitting senators sitting around talking about how the orders, maybe their orders, they might think, to be deployed are somehow illegal and that they are allowed to disobey them, I always think about what those young men and women who are serving in uniform must be thinking about all of this as they try to carry out their job, that maybe what they're doing is illegal, maybe they should be disobeying their orders, and now they're getting shot at. What must be going through their minds?
I think, honestly, what's probably going through their minds is, oh, my gosh, we were here just on a simple mission given by the president of the United States. And now you have an Afghan foreign national who came into this country because Joe Biden, frankly, did one of the most stupidest things that has ever been done with the withdrawal of Afghanistan. They brought in a bunch of Afghani nationals. Nobody was truly vetted. And now you have people in our country who now are posing a threat to the National Guard. That doesn't say anything to the fact that the same Biden administration, with the support of these 6 Democrat officials and every other Democrat on Capitol Hill, allowed our nation to be wide open, where you had people from 184 different countries coming into the United States illegally. This is outrageous. So for the National Guard and our other men and women who are just trying to do their job, now they get these 6 fools who go on social media trying to make themselves look more important than they really are, to be frank with you. And now their lives are at risk. This is obscene. And this is Democrat policy, Democrat power politics that is not securing the homeland, not making sure our people are safe, and not valuing the men and women who put the uniform on every single day to protect this nation.
What should the White House and Republicans in Congress do to go back and review that program and try to figure out if there are other problems like this lurking in that program?
Well, we're doing it right now. Obviously, the deportations that President Trump has greenlighting is step 1. Step 2, obviously, was securing the country. Donald Trump has done that the second he came back into the White House. No illegal border crossings into the United States. That's a win for the American people. To my colleagues on Capitol Hill, it is time to reopen the investigations into the Afghanistan withdrawal and the lack of vetting of who came into this country. And every one of those people need to go somewhere. They don't need to be in the United States. If it's going back to Afghanistan, so be it. But now that we have 2 of our men and 2 of our soldiers in the hospital fighting for their lives, I mean, enough is enough. And I know that there are some people in the United States saying, oh, well, you know, we didn't want to really deport everybody. The truth of the matter is you cannot have wide open borders. Wide open borders lead to our country being overwhelmed in every single aspect, including safety and security.
Well, we will be. I will look forward to seeing that investigation reopened, and we will follow it closely. Byron Donald, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.